Yes.
That's what that shit means? ALHSY?
A lot's happened since yesterday.
Yeah. Lots happened since yesterday.
A lot's happened since yesterday!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to A Lot's Happened Since Yesterday. Once again, I am Cody Walker. He is Ralph Busso.
I'm Ralph Busso.
I pointed the right way this time, Ralphie. Look at that. I don't have to do anything about it.
Now you don't have to do that squirrely line that you do with the arrow at the end.
It was a good idea. Come on. It works.
Funny. It only lasted for like a second, though, so I don't think anybody realized what it was.
That was the point. It was just like, bam, move on. I point out my stupidity for a split second, and I move on. That's how I roll. Who we have with us today is a very good friend of ours. He goes back with Ralph. Wow. How long ago was it, Rod? How long ago did you meet Ralph?
Man, that's probably...
I think it's been 10 years, bro.
More than, yeah.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I think I met you in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So me and Rod go way back. We hung out a bit. He moved out of California, and he went on with his life. Tell us what you've been up to, Rod.
Yeah, I left California in 2012, I think it was. Got married, moved to New York, and then moved to Virginia, and then got divorced. And then after that, I was like, hey, I've got this book that I need to finish. I'd written 10 chapters of a science fiction novel, but kind of let life happen to me and let that delay me finishing. So in 2012, I sat down and begun writing and completing that story. And it took me forever. It had already taken me forever anyway, but I finished the book in around 2014, 2015. I started looking for self-publishing companies and then published that first book and went to visit my mom in the Virgin Islands, came back to Virginia where I was living at the time. Then my aunt got sick and I had to take care of her for a month. And it happened to be where the parent company was actually, I won't say stationed, but it was where the main company resided was in Aurora, Colorado. And so I actually got to meet my editor that I had only spoken with online, basically, through emails and phone calls. Wrote that book, Ancient Illumination, published it officially, I think, in 2016, 2017. And then, like I said, before we were speaking before we officially started, I went to my first Comic-Con in 2017 as a vendor, and we were telling people that book 2 was going to be out the next year. And it was kind of funny because my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, was like, book 2 will be out next year. And then we leave the event, and she's like, honey, are you going to be done with that book next year? Telling everybody we're coming back next year. So I was like, oh crap, I gotta get on it. So I sat down and wrote the second book, Ancient Illumination 2, Kungaza Mwanga, which is the leading light in Swahili. And the reason I had subtitled it that is because the whole thing behind the first series was that there are beings that are made of pure light that come to Earth during the days of Cromagnon to kind of teach mankind. And one of those beings basically looks at us like, these dudes are too stupid. They're not going to get it. So I'm going to have fun and experiment and mutilate these people for my entertainment, basically. And the other beings of his kind find out what he's done, and they exile him here on Earth. And so he's then tasked with enlightening mankind and teaching us. And but he can't go to his pure form, and he can't leave. So it's like, until you enlighten these people, you are, for all intents and purposes, stuck on Earth. So we just become his soap opera because he mutates us, creates a myriad of religions. We become different from each other in much more aggressive ways than simple skin color. We have the Kisan Askari, that's the Stone Warriors in Swahili, and they are called the Stone People initially because they have calcified skin, which hardens their skin, giving them the ability to work in harsher environments, go to other planets and work in environments where the gravity is heavier, the weather is more extreme. And so they end up getting a lot of resources for the people here on Earth and eventually get into a dispute about compensation for their work. Like, we're getting all this shit you guys can't get because you can't go to this planet because you can't survive on that planet. We need to be paid more, basically. And they end up going to war with the governments that are ruling Earth. We basically break the galaxy up into almost 9 like colonies, but mainly mankind stays on Earth, but we have various smaller mining colonies on the other planets and on the Earth. And so the ancient being of light that's left on Earth is watching this shit like a movie. He's like, oh, this is cool. So he escalates all the conflict, and he sees that regular man elevates their technological advances to try and keep up with and control these various mutant races that are now bigger, faster, stronger than they are. And it just kind of a tit for tat goes. And the alien dude is just like, this is cool. This is hilarious. This is famine. This is war. And he's just watching it like a big television show. And then finally some of the mutant groups get together and like, we got to find this original dude to stop all this conflict because it's not doing us any good. So that's basically what I've been up to. There are 3 books in the series now. We have a graphic novel, Ancient Illumination, Volume 1, Remembrance and Revolt, which basically breaks down the first 2 chapters of the novel. Because going to these various Comic Cons, I had plenty of people come up to me and be like, yo, that sounds like a cool ass story. But check this out, homie. I don't read. You giving it to me in this 300-page novel, that's not going to happen. But if you illustrate it for me, I'll probably go ahead and digest your media that way. And so after hearing that over and over again, I kind of went on a search to find an artist and was lucky enough to bounce into one here in Howard County in Maryland. Jordan Purnell Jackson is the illustrator of my graphic novel. And we just finished a Kickstarter a couple days ago, as a matter of fact, and raised the money to get funded so that we can not only properly launch book 3 and volume 1 of the graphic novel, but we've now started illustrating volume 2.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what I've been up to, writing books, selling books, going to different conferences until everything got shut down. And then,
so the illustrations on your book explain to me how this works, because I'm imagining it in my mind as almost like a comic book, but a little bit more dressed up, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a graphic novel. It's basically a larger form. Oh wow, that's it's a larger form comic book. Basically, comic book is basically the only difference really is the amount of pages that I've seen. So
that's cool.
With the comic book, with the comic book, you're talking 22 to like 28 pages for a standard issue. This one's 56. And even if you really want to be breaking it down as that's just the argument of semantics, it is a comic book. It's just more pages usually mean it's going to be a graphic novel versus what people were telling me they didn't want to get was this, this is what the book looks like. So when the people saw that and was like, nah, dude, I'm not doing that. That's too much work. Give me it. Or maybe you just resonates with you differently. It may not be a thing of too much work. It just may be that the pictures resonate with you. Some people like to form the pictures in their mind by reading the words and trust more so in their imagination. And some people want it presented for them and then go from there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, how does that work? You're the writer. This is your novel. This is your story. Mm-hmm. You realize that it's a good idea to do something based on what your friends have told you that is more visual and not so much something that people have to read. And like you said, your buddy said, hey, it's only one problem, I don't read. There's a lot of people like that nowadays. So it's a good move. It's a good business move. But I got to ask, how did you know that it was going to work when you met the illustrator?
You don't. That's the crazy thing about it is I've heard a lot of horror stories about writer-artist relationships and how they kind of break down, because you basically have to you just lay out what you want, and then the artist should lay out what their price is. And there's always been this kind of argument on both sides of, well, when do each get paid? Because I understood from the beginning that I was going to get paid on the back end. But if you want someone to do the work for you, I don't care what it is, you pay them for their work. So we met up, had a beer, and talked. Because at the convention we met at, I'd already gave him the gist of my story, but we wanted to meet on personal time to see whether we would be a good fit. He seemed interested in the storyline that I was doing and liked the characters and was interested to learn more about some of the other characters that I had seen, because I did have other concepts drawn up from other authors. And then it was just about negotiating price. He said, I want this price per page, and this is what I'll do for that price. And then we went about it there. And then I just started paying him per page, price. And then as more money came in, then I would give him more money until I was paid up. And then as that happened, he would get more of the book done. So it'd be funny because if I paid him for like 20 pages, and then if I hadn't been able to give him any more money, gone, but hey, what page you on? And he'd be like, 20. He's like, that's what you paid up to. There's 20 pages. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to do more. I was like, oh, okay. And then once I understood, like, look, we got to give him the rest of the money. So I worked, and my wife worked to give him the rest of the money. Got it done, got it completed in a very fast time. He was a pleasure to work with. We fed off of each other as far as we had a pretty good creative synergy, if you will, because there were certain things that thematically he would look at and be like, I think this should be this way. And as long as he had a good argument for it, I was more than happy to let him go ahead and take his direction on that, because number one, it's a different medium. It's the same story, but it's a different experience when you do the graphic novel versus the novel.
Right.
Because the novel is similar to how movies are, where say we're three characters in a film and the audience is introduced to us as we grow up and this and that, and we're going through our part of the story. 10 minutes later, they go totally different location, totally different group of people, and then you go through their part of the story, and then later they come back to us. Well, when you're doing something that's only visual, through this process I learned, or at least he told me, and it made sense when he talked about it, you can't just hop around. So what we're going to do is we're going to break up parts of the story within the two chapters we used and kind of sew them together so that you stay with the first 24 pages or so with one group of characters. And then we get a break, and then we go the next 20 so pages with another group of characters, so that there's more of a continuity. So I like it in that way. It's a different experience. So some people that like both can get both, because if they were both the exact same story told the exact same way, somebody might be like, well, I have the book, there's no need to get the graphic novel, or vice versa. I have the graphic novel, there's no need to get the book, I'll just wait for the other volumes come out to give me the rest of the story. But the situation with the artist went really well.
Well, that's good. It's just like anything. A partnership like that can be, it can get weird at times, because you wrote the story and it's your concept, it's your baby.
Yeah.
But now he's bringing it into the mix.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's like a singer and a guitar player going, okay, how are we going to work this out? We're both kind of this. And I'm not saying that the other players aren't stars of the show, but in most cases, the vocalist and the guitar player are like the bigger stars of the show. Usually, that's usually how it goes. But those two are usually the ones that write as well. Like Cody and I, we've written a lot together, and I noticed that that's usually how it goes. So, but you have to have a good relationship with that person, because you have to be able to go, you know what? I know that you're doing this and we're doing this together. And there's going to be parts that, like you said, you allowed him to come in with ideas and kind of run with that, which is great. But that's not always something that works out for most people. So I'm glad it worked out for you.
Well, and I could see where it would be, it would have to be a give and take too, because both of you are kind of like trying to respect each other's art. Like, you put all of this work in the story, but you're kind of trusting his vision to work. And if it doesn't, you don't want to be like, I'm not saying it sucks, but it's not what I need to work with. I could see where it'd be a balancing issue. Like,
yeah, we worked those things out. The other thing is I wanted him to have partial ownership of it, because if he owns it, then he's going to care about it more.
Oh, true that.
If you're just executing my idea alone and you have no input whatsoever, then the only reason for you to do that is for the money. Like, period. This dude's paying me to do this. I'm going to ahead and do it. He wants his wild, crazy afro on this dude that's supposed to have calcified skin. Makes no sense because, and that was one of the differences that I was talking about having hair for some of the characters. And he's like, well, no, these group of mutants with calcified skin would inhibit them having hair. So since they're calcified all over, then they would be bald. So he made them all bald. And I was like, oh, you know what? I never even thought of that.
That's putting some deep thought into that, man, rather than just throwing a picture. I dig that.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, let's roll with it. And so, and I felt like, I felt like he felt more respected in that sense, and therefore became more enthusiastic about the project because I want it done well, and I want it done in a timely fashion. Because as you know, when you're given a task to do, and say you have multiple, and most artists have multiple projects going on simultaneously. I can do this thing that I'm only doing for money, but there's not necessarily a time limit on that. It's kind of, we're paid up to where I am. I'll get to that when I get to it. But this other project, they've given me to write. No, me personally, if someone were to give me a writing project where I thought the story beginnings were cool and I wanted to expand that, they're letting me create my own character within this universe that's not mine, and I'm going to be able to flesh that out as I see fit. I'm going to be more interested in writing the story where I'm given kind of some agency to do with the story what I want and continue that, rather than this thing where I'm only doing it because I'm getting paid to do it, but I can get to that when I get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What spurred the idea to your story?
What if scenario? I was reading a bunch of Star Wars novels years ago. I was reading all the expanded universe. It started when I was in the Marine Corps, when I was in Japan. Right before Episode 1, Phantom Menace, was coming out, and there was another like round of hype around it. I was like, you know what? I've never read the books. So I started reading the books, and I liked the prequels, actually. Prequel novels, imagine that. It didn't make any sense to me. Episode 1, right? And then there's two prequel books to Episode 1. It's like, what's before 1? Is this Episode 0? What is this?
Yeah.
So I was in, back in the day, let's tell you how old it is. I was in Walden Books in Japan. And asked the dude, I was like, yo, I want to read the Star Wars novels. He was like, yeah, in the science fiction section, the back, look over here. And there's this wall of books. I'm like, yo, what's up with this? It's like 6 books, right? Episodes 1, 2, and 3 that we're coming out with now, and there's 4, 5, and 6, and there's rumor that there may be 7, 8, and 9 coming, but there's only like 9 episodes. He's like, oh no. There's a whole, it's like, all that is all Star Wars. Like, so I started with books that were around the time periods that I was familiar with. So I picked one book that was leading up to Episode 1. I picked another book that was around, in the story, was around right after Return of the Jedi. So I picked 2 books to start off with, Courtship of Princess Leia and Darth Maul Shadowhunter, and read through those. Those were my first 2. And I was immediately hooked. I started reading all them shits. And I was getting, wherever I could find them, I started getting them and reading those books. And then at one point, I'd read so many, I was like, man, I've read so much of this crap. I wonder if I could write one. So I wrote a short story on my own, but it was Star Wars related. And then another thought came into my head. It's like, you could finish this, but you don't own it. At the time, I'd only written out like 7, 8 pages, and I passed around to a few of my friends that thought it was cool, but I was like, you can't own this. It's set in an established IP owned by a large corporation. This is pretty much, it's fan fiction. You can't go any further. If you don't like the way the story's going, there's nothing you can do. Even if it did get, picked up and they commissioned me to do it, they could do whatever they want with it after that. Like, so then I became, was thinking about the forms of matter. And back when I was in like grade school, there were only three forms of matter: was gas, solid, and liquid. And now they're teaching the fourth form, which is plasma. Plasma is like a mix of all three. It's gaseous, it's liquid, and it's solid at the same time. And so I was like, well, what about light? Light is kind of all of them in one, because a photon, or one unit of light, is all of that. It's gaseous, it's liquid, and it's solid. And then I took that idea further and said, well, what if there were organic beings made of pure light? And what if they came to Earth? What would that initial interaction would be? And then I took it back, said, okay, let's dial this back to the days of caveman. If they came back that far in our prehistory, what would those and that's kind of how I got started with this story. And then I developed characters, I developed different groups of people, developed a personality for this one. I wouldn't necessarily call him the villain, but he is the kind of the puppeteer of all the conflict that's going on Earth. He, of course, doesn't see himself as a villain, even though he's done some pretty horrible things. And he has, in fact, taught us enough to advance technologically, but we're not really enlightened in a sense. So we have new toys, we got spaceships, but we're not, obviously, just like today, we have a bunch of amazing technological advances here, but we're not the most progressive when it comes to spirituality and the state of mind and the treating of others. It kind of just, we have the same cycle of conflicts that keep changing form and evolving, but we're still fighting over the same crap we've been fighting over for hundreds and thousands of years. So that's kind of how I came up with the story and the reasoning for why I started writing.
Well, I was going to say the story is, it's something that people I think can relate to. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of parts of the story that are reminiscent of what's our reality, to be honest. But yeah, it's a great story. I think it's fascinating. I think it's great that you're doing it, in an illustrated comic book style as well. I think that is fascinating, because I remember as a kid, that's what used to get my attention, from the comic books. Anytime I went into a store somewhere, if there was a comic book rack, I'd always be checking out, the new comic that was in and looking at the artwork. And, the clerk would always yell at me, don't touch the comics. No,
you gotta pay for that, boy.
So how'd you get into, what got you into, what's your biggest genre? Sci-fi? Is that your favorite?
Fantasy is my favorite thing to read. I like the action. I like action in my stories. I like I say in my video on the Kickstarter, I like ass whooping. Whatever it is, you need to put some ass whooping in there somewhere for me to. It could be a romance, but there better be a conflict over that relationship at some point where he has to fight for, whatever, or she has to fight for whatever. But I want some type of conflict in there. You can't give me 300 pages, or you can't give me 2 hours of lovey-dovey stuff the entire time throughout the whole story. I'll need some ass whooping. And science fiction, I like things veiled within science fiction and fantasy because it can be all-encompassing. Just because it's science fiction does not exclude it from having elements of the other genres in there. But I like the ways that things are going in science fiction worlds. We can have all of the romance, we can have all of the drama, we can have military science fiction, all of that within one story, and it's still, at the base, it is a science fiction story because we use either different times or technology that aren't in the times that you're writing about, which would make it science fiction, or into some far off future where things that are on the horizon but not yet possible, or at least not yet executed, can be displayed in these stories. Those are the most interesting genres for me. I like fantasy as well. They're kind of similar in certain ways, but fantasy is probably my number 2 behind science fiction. I also, like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to write a fantasy series as well. I like swords, I like sorcery, I like all that stuff. It's just a different set of rules when you're building that kind of world. Science fiction usually it doesn't have to be perfect, but there has to be some basis of science being used within the science fiction world that either has not been achieved yet, or if you're writing in the past, you have your characters using something that did not exist at that time. And fantasy is just magic. And you have to have rules to whatever your magic tier is, and you have to adhere to those rules, or else your readers are going to be really pissed at you because you wrote a story, got your main character in a bind, and then broke those rules just to get that character out of the situation you put them in. They're going to call BS on you every time if you do that. So
yeah, because it's kind of lazy storytelling at that point, huh?
Yeah. You're only supposed to get 3 wishes when you rub this lamp, but he's about to die. I don't want him to, so we're going to give him a 4th wish magically.
Because the genie just loves him that much. He's just going to break the... Yeah, that I can see
readers
that.
are going to be following that, like, but you let Craig die.
Damn it, Craig.
Poor Craig.
But that
I always knew he was gonna die.
But
anyways,
that is the cool thing, though. I think you're right with science fiction because with science fiction you're able to meld a lot of genres together and it still works. I mean, look at Mandalorian. I mean, Mandalorian is very much a Western as much as it is a scientific or a science fiction show. You know,
it is a Western. It is a Kurosawa Japanese samurai story.
Yep.
All mixed in there, and of course that's what Lucas borrowed heavily from when he was in film school, which is why the initial movies, the one that he released, New Hope in '77, the imagery from that, the desolate. I mean, all you needed when you're on Tatooine is to have that ball of tumbleweed just rolling by.
The whistle.
It would have fit right in. It was a Western / samurai story that he wanted to tell.
Yeah.
They're doing that beautifully right now with The Mandalorian. I love that series right now.
Rod, I would assume you've read the Thrawn trilogy of the books, of the Star Wars books.
I have.
What do you think they're going to be doing with Thrawn on the Ahsoka?
They are not using the Thrawn trilogy Thrawn.
Right.
I think they are using the Rebels Thrawn, where Ahsoka is basically searching for Ezra Bridger, and Thrawn was the big bad introduced later on in the series for those purposes.
Right.
So they're continuing what we saw animated basically in live action. I think that was the name drop at the episode the Jedi with Ahsoka confronting the magistrate at the end when she says, "Where is Thrawn?" They're continuing that storyline.
Right.
I don't think they're going to use the Thrawn the
actual story.
He's going to be a carrot dangled to string them along once we're done. I don't even know if we're going to be done with Moff Gideon by then, but because she's supposed to be getting her own series as well.
Yeah. So I would assume, me and my brother were talking about this because originally, I don't know. It's my theory that the little that Grogu calls is Ezra's gonna answer. I think that's who he reached out to on that little rock. And they're just kind of keeping it in wraps.
Specific. It was just to a Jedi. So anybody within range, I guess, that is attuned to the Force will hear the call. It could be Ezra. It could be Luke.
The only reason I don't see Luke is I think this is just because my brain thinks they're going to try to stay away from that series for a while. So they're just going to try to get us focused on a whole nother.
It would be cool if it was Mace that shows up.
Oh my gosh, it would be.
We never see a body.
Never saw a body. And if Darth Maul can make a comeback, cut in half, Mace Windu can survive a fall out of a damn window.
Yeah. All he lost was a hand. He had a cool little robotic hand on him.
Yeah. He
Ladies
says,
and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Star Wars Talk.
This is what happens when you get this kind of stuff on here, dude.
Does the Emperor look like a bitch?
Now that's good. Say what again? How'd you get into the whole thing? How'd you get into sci-fi and fantasy and stuff? I mean, is that what you were always into as a kid and stuff?
As a kid, I always liked science. I mean, I'm a big Star Wars nut. I watched Star Trek as a kid too, but Star Trek annoyed me more so.
Really? Why did it?
Dude, me and Rod are cut from the same cloth, man. Because he's sitting there like, oh yeah, I did the same thing.
Normal. Like, not to be funny, but black characters, for the most part, with the exception of a few characters, could not be normal characters in Star Trek. You had Uhuru in the original Star Trek, who was the communication specialist on the bridge. She was normal. I like her. But every other person of color that wasn't part of the main crew that showed up in the original show with William Shatner, if you weren't Spock, Bones, Kirk, Scotty, Chekhov, and you went to the away team, you was dead. You were not making it back.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd hear Captain Kirk come on, Bones, Spock, take Ensign Johnson and go with the away team down to the surface. Like, I'd hear that shit and be like, Ensign Johnson ain't coming back. As soon as they touch down, Scotty, Captain, Ensign Johnson's down. Like, no shit, Ensign Johnson's down. He's not coming back. And then I got introduced to the new generation with Picard. And the main people of color that we had there were Worf, who was a Klingon. They had to put this crazy booty head makeup on his forehead. And then you had Geordi LaForge, who was blind and had this crazy sci-fi visor over his face, over his eyes. Now later they took that off and gave him white eyes and had these two little red glowing lights inside of those. But he was the chief engineer of the ship, and this brother would get knocked down every other episode. That visor would fly off, and he'd look like a roach with his legs. And he couldn't do nothing. I'm like, dude, this is the chief engineer of your ship, man. He should be able to get up and do some shit. Why is he down right now when we need him to be doing something? He's rolling around, the visor's 5 feet away from him. He's feeling around. I was like, man, I don't like that.
It was like that one Tyson fight where he got knocked down. Nobody expected it. Who was he fighting?
Buster Douglas?
Buster Douglas. Remember when he got knocked down? Everybody's like, what? And he's all reaching around. Tyson's all reaching around for his mouthpiece. Sorry. Got off on that.
So stuff like that just kind of annoyed me. Even though I still enjoyed a lot of the series, they just kind of annoyed me with that stuff. So I kind of leaned more towards Star Wars was cooler to me. I liked it a lot more. And then we got Mace Windu got to be a head of the Jedi Council. And before that, we had Lando Calrissian, who had his own freaking Tibanna gas settlement in Cloud City. He owned it and administrated that shit. Like, I didn't know till years later after reading his trilogy of books that he had won it in the card game of Sabak, but he owned something, and he was, even came back for his homeboy in Return of the Jedi to rescue Han after he got jammed up.
That's true.
They were side characters, but they weren't just tossed to the side of the Empire, were just killed arbitrarily when they go down to every planet like they did in Star Trek. It just get on my nerves because I knew Ensign Johnson and Lieutenant Martinez were not coming back. They weren't going to make it back. And if everybody got infected, those two would die before the cure was made.
So speaking of infected, now that you mentioned that, I got to ask you, are you into zombie movies at all? No, you don't like horror at all?
It's been done. It's been, and the funny thing is, in my fantasy series, I have revenants.
What are those?
Basically zombies. They're at one point I have one character who kind of makes a deal with what he thinks is the goddess of death, and it becomes that it's actually a god of sickness, and through the sickness can actually reanimate dead or close to death bodies. And so they fight those. But as far as I've watched a little bit of The Walking Dead, but it's kind of been done over and over and over and over and over again.
Not a big fan of The Walking Dead?
I liked a few of the episodes that I saw, but it just wasn't something that I wasn't going to keep watching. I tolerated it for Game of Thrones because I liked it, even though the White Walkers were basically zombies with like ice magic that were reanimated. Yeah, I like it. It's just not something that it's not gonna be like something I'm waiting every week to watch.
You a big Game of Thrones fan?
Yeah. Okay. I read up to Feast for Crows. It was the last book that I had read. So I think after that one, I think it's Dancing with Dragons and something else. But yeah, I read those books before the TV show came out.
Do you have any plans on maybe trying to get Ancient Illuminations into a movie or a series of some kind? Maybe talk to Netflix or something?
For me, that is the end game, brother.
Okay.
I published in 2016. By 2026, I hope to have something popping with either a screenplay for a movie or a deal with like a streaming show, because I think it has the legs to sustain a long-term series. Because not only, the funny thing is with the comic book stuff, with the graphic novel, we're doing the larger graphic novels, but we're also going to take side characters and give them their own comic book runs. There's a lot of story and a lot of lore and stuff that I don't even really get into in specifics, which people may find interesting. In Ancient Illumination, we have these group of characters called the Ongankujin, which is music people in Japanese. I just made that word up. But they are the Jade Assassins. They're these green-skinned mutants with a flying theater, and they pull off basically high-contract assassinations. And they do this during their shows sometimes. So people may be like, yo, Hironike sounds like a cool-ass character, but how did he become a Jade Assassin? How did he become the head of the Jade Assassins? Why do the Jade Assassins even exist? So for those people, they may read the book, and these people sound really cool. I don't get to learn enough about them, so we have an opportunity to do another comic run just exploring their stories. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So yeah, if it came down to it, and Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu, whoever wanted to call me for a series, that's the end game for me, because it's more ways to tell my story, and also I believe it's a way we can improve upon the story. I don't think I'm Shakespeare or Tolkien, none of that. So I'm hoping that through other mediums we can improve upon the foundation that I've built with each iteration, and not go, because most time it goes in the reverse. We see people that get a book and they turn that book into the movie, and the movie's trash. Now people are pissed off because they read the book. I want to have it so that with each iteration that it improves upon the story that I've told by telling it in different ways and giving it a different perspective. So yeah, I'm definitely down to do that whenever the time comes. I've got a couple friends now that are hooked up. One's got signed with Netflix. Another one has got I think they're hooked up with HBO for their books. So yeah, it's definitely on my mind. I didn't write it strictly for that purpose. It's just after I've gotten to the point where there's 3 books, about to be 4 books in that series.
It's obviously got legs, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got enough material. I'm hoping to get to a point where the one thing I didn't like about it, Game of Thrones, is they outpaced the books. And I think once they started outpacing the book is when the quality of the show diminished, because they were going on their own before without using what had got them there.
Right.
You got there because you already had this solid story crafted, tailor-made for you to put into this other medium and go with it. And so long as you stuck mainly to the story points and what he had built, sky's the limit. The moment that they went off reservation and started doing their own thing, it went downhill, and the people watching the show started going off about it.
Yeah. It immediately turned into, how quick can we get the visual content out? And his process is way too involved for quick. I mean, his obviously, doesn't he still write on like an old school Apple computer or something? Like he keeps himself outdated, but it still doesn't change the fact that's how he gets his stories out. And to just go and, because I think I read somewhere, I keep wanting to say Tolkien. What is his name? George R. Martin.
George R. Martin.
There you. They said that he went to him and said, "This is how I'm planning to end the series," and it's that kind of that got to me, because I'm like, they're going to rush it then if they know how to do it. I was afraid of that, because he, like you said, he still hasn't finished the books. There's still more story to tell from him. Yeah. They should have held off. They could have held off. People would have been okay with holding off, I think.
They would have griped about it, but what are they going to do? You gonna tell me you're not gonna watch?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not coming out till 2024. Oh man, that's bull. 2024, they're gonna tune in.
Oh, absolutely.
Bottom line.
They said the same thing about Guns N' Roses. 11 years later, nobody's gonna listen to that album, and it sold like gangbusters. Nobody was happy about it, but it still sold.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, Rod, how come you never got into sports? Because I mean, I know people don't know this. They can't tell by looking at you, but you're a huge guy. You're a huge specimen as a male. How tall are you? You're like
6'9".
6'9". Guys, this guy could be
the mountain from Game of Thrones.
You know what I mean? Yeah, in one of those movies or one of these shows that we're talking about. So have you ever thought about doing something in your own
Actually, I played basketball for 3 years in college, and I played basketball for the Marine Corps. Played all armed forces, all Marine in 99 2000, and then was supposed to be going to try out for a team in San Diego, but the team lost its funding, and I hurt myself my last year in the Marine Corps, so that was kind of the end of that. And so yeah, I played basketball. I didn't play football. Moms wouldn't let me play football in Chicago. She wouldn't sign the insurance papers and refused, so I had no choice but not to play. She's like, you can play anything else, you just can't play that. It's like, you're too tall. You're too tall. They're going to hit you in your knees and your ankles. You won't be able to play nothing else. So I wasn't able to play football, but I played basketball.
She was looking out for you.
Yeah, see, she had a point.
She didn't, though. She didn't.
They're going to go low, man. They're going to go low. Take your knees out.
They can go, but the funny thing is I got hurt playing basketball. So I didn't avoid a lower extremity injury because of the sport I chose. I ended up getting hurt years later. Actually, the funny thing is I didn't get hurt in college or high school, but in the military playing is when I got hurt. But yeah, I still play, shoot around now.
Did you ever think about getting into like the MMA and stuff like that? Because I know you're a martial artist, right? You've studied, right?
Took a little bit of Kyokushin as a kid. I studied a little bit of Krav Maga while I was out there in California. Nothing serious since I was younger. Now I don't really practice. Line training doesn't really count in the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps boot camp. But yeah, I mean, I fight. I do my thing, and I've worked security for a number of years, so I had to take people down and break up fights and kind of in that sense. But
is that why you like the action?
That's what entertains me.
Right.
You don't give me 2 hours of story. I'm just watching a bunch of people talk the whole time. I'm gonna fall asleep and get bored.
No, I hear you. Everybody needs a little bit of action, that's for sure. So, have you ever thought about fighting, like professionally? Because you're a big guy, so people would be intimidated instantly. It's like
the funny thing is when I was at Camp Pendleton, California, one of the guys who worked in the kitchen, the 22 area in Camp Pendleton, was the trainer for, I believe, Ken Norton, the boxer. And so he would tell me all the time, he's like, yo, come on in the gym, man. Just you go out there playing that basketball, man. Let me teach you how to box. We get you boxing, I'm telling you, you'll be the next heavyweight champion of the world. I'm like, man, knock it off. My whole thing with that is I look at Muhammad Ali and see what he had went through in his life, and the fact that at the end, I'm not sure how much enjoyment he got out of it after serious head trauma over and over again, because I'm a greedy dude. And so I'm probably going to keep fighting. Like, yo, we got this fight next week for 20 million. Let's go. At which point do you tell me no? Like, he got to a point where he's literally like shaking and is messed up. When I was saddened seeing him years ago when he was carrying the torch at the Olympics and he was all shaking. I was like, Lord, please don't let this man drop this torch. Let's come in and have that be our last memory of one of the greatest boxers of all time. So I'm thinking, like, if I start boxing, 20 million here, 20 million there, 20 million here. Now when I get a little older, it's not as much money, 5 million. But I could just see myself continuing to fight beyond where I should have stopped. And for those reasons, I don't want to start, because that's probably the road I would head down. I would just be greedy the whole time, especially when you get accustomed to having certain things and living a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, that's true. That's the case with most people. I think they get used to having a certain amount of money to spend, and then when they don't have it anymore, you know what I mean? Everything goes out the window. What do you think about Tyson kind of sort of making a comeback? I guess that's what he's talking more seriously. I know he did something with Roy Jones, like an exhibition. I didn't get to see it, but
it was hilarious.
Was it?
It was hilarious, dude. You could tell they were both 50-year-old men fighting in the ring. Tyson, though, credit to him, was in strangely better shape, which I thought it would be the opposite, because Roy Jones was the perennial athlete that was always in shape. Always, his thing was speed. He beat you with speed and power on top. So you couldn't touch him by the time you got the swinging on him, and you were too tired to connect, because you use more energy missing punches than you do connecting. He would make you miss. You'd be tired and frustrated, and he would just blast you in the face repeatedly and make fun of you the whole time while he was doing it, and it was entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Tyson was the one that would just knock you out in seconds, but the tilt on him was if you got beyond the first few rounds and he didn't get that knockout, he wasn't the type to have the stamina to go the distance. He ended up going the whole round at 50-something years old, going the whole match. It was a credit to his dedication and training at this age.
Mm.
So I mean, I don't know. I didn't pay for it to see it. I think I watched it being streamed somewhere, either on YouTube or through Facebook. Funnily enough,
you think people are interested enough in that to see Tyson make a comeback after all these years, or
it's not going to? Number one, it's not going to be a serious enough comeback. Because I know I hear Evander Holyfield is calling him out now to fight, and it's like, dude, both of y'all are old. Like, why? And I'm thinking maybe it's just that Evander needs another check, and he sees these two dudes split $1 million or whatever, and he's like, yo, I want my meal. What's up?
Yeah, because Tyson said he wants to do more fights for like charity events and stuff like they did. He wants to get back into it doing that. So maybe that's what they're pushing for. But yeah, who wouldn't?
But don't try and fool me and like this is a serious thing.
Oh no, no. Like you said, well, now that you said that, did Roy Jones fought as recently as like 2 years ago, right? It wasn't that terribly long ago. A lot sooner than Tyson.
Yeah.
So to see him that out of shape was actually surprising.
You didn't hear him after the fight?
No.
They asked Roy Jones if he was worried about being hurt, and Tyson, what are you talking about? You ain't worried about my ass. I ain't fought in 15 years. I ain't fought 15 years, man. Fought a few years ago. Ain't nobody care about my ass. It's like,
Tyson, dude.
He was like, y'all didn't care about me. You was worried about him being hurt, but I could be hurt too.
That was a good Tyson.
It was actually a very good Tyson.
That was a very good Tyson. Yeah. I didn't know you could do that. Anyways. All right, dude. I hate to do this, Rod, but we got to get serious. We got to talk about some serious topics at some point. I hope you don't mind. What do you think about the whole COVID situation right now?
I think people need to do what needs to be done to get us back to a modicum of normalcy. There are people out there who don't believe that it's real, that it's a hoax, but I know people personally that have suffered and some that have even passed from this disease. So when you get to arguing over numbers of saying that, you have a 99% chance of survival, but even if that's the case, from what I've seen, it's a horrible thing to go through, just sit your ass inside. It doesn't, that's my thoughts on it. Even if you think it's not doing anything, it's not really harming you as much as people are making it out to be, with the exception of small businesses. Small businesses are being killed. I myself was affected because I wasn't able to go to the events that I would traditionally go to year after year that I had gotten used to. But I'm not risking myself, I'm risking the people that I love. And it's not just about yourself, is what a lot of people don't understand. Maybe you're at no risk, but you may be a carrier, and then you bring to someone who's more of a risk. That to me is the problem. So if I'm not afraid of it and I'm just going to go out and do what I do, and then I go and visit 80-something-year-old grandma, not knowing that I've just brought the disease along to her, and she's not going to survive that. And that's writ large for all of society. Why is it that New Zealand has been able to get this thing under control and we can't? That's what's kind of crazy.
Don't you think we should follow their protocol? Like right away, go, hey, you know what? Let's follow what they're doing. You know?
We're too right-centric. Everybody's worried about their rights. We need our rights to do this. If I want to go out and have a meeting at Walmart and be in nothing but my drawers and I don't want to wear a mask, I feel like I have the right to. There are people out there literally arguing for like dumb crap like that, and that's what they want to do. As much as everybody else wants it, I want everything to go back to normal. But in order for that to happen, we need to do what needs to be done beforehand. And this vaccine situation is going to be crazy as hell as well. I know a lot of people in the Black community are skeptical about vaccines. And a lot of other people looking at it like, well, how come you don't trust vaccines? And it's like, ever hear the Tuskegee experiments where they purposely injected men in the army with syphilis and watch them over the next 60 to 80 years to see what it did to their systems? And if you know that that's a true story, that's what's publicized. There's probably countless other tales like that that we don't even know about. That's what's on record. That's what's been admitted to by the Army and the government. So there's no telling what else has been done that we are no longer aware of. You got this shit going on in Flint, Michigan with the water. That's unsafe. And they're supposedly trying to do studies on why the water is unsafe in one part of the country. That a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense, but it's why people are skeptical, why people are thinking these weird ass conspiracy theories and may not trust that you're trying to help them when you're giving them the cure for a disease. It makes sense. So just because people are out there doubting things, I have no problem with anyone questioning what is going on, because you just shouldn't accept everything. But common sense should factor in there as well. And people thinking that the government purposely wants to kill everybody makes absolutely no sense, because in my eyes, dead people cannot pay debts.
Right. No, that's a good point. But don't you think that it's true that most people don't have common sense nowadays? I mean, I guess that goes back into the whole fake news thing. You know, I think a lot of people are like, well, we don't know what to believe anymore because there's so much fake news out there. And my thought is there's always been fake news out there. Ever heard of the National Enquirer or Star? You know what I mean? That was all fake news. But you got to use common sense, you know, to figure out what sounds like it's reality and what sounds like it's total fiction. You know, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about the whole fake news? You know, our current president has brought that to the forefront in many ways, saying we can't trust any of these media.
With the media, just follow the money. That's all I've always said. Follow the money. Whoever's paying them to say what they're saying will kind of shade what's being said one way or the other. The problem is we don't have totally independent media that is not attached to any one main organization. So they pay for what they want. If I had a grip of money, I could get people in the media to say glowing things about me that would gloss over my failings in the past and only glorify my achievements that's going on right now. That's basically what goes on. They don't want you to talk about something. They'll pay you money to write these stories that goes away from what we should really be focusing on. And so it kind of sullies all media, like follow the money, and that's what's controlling what's being put out there. There are some that really want to bring us the news. And so I look at the media like I take everything with a grain of salt and try and figure out what it is they're telling me, what it is they really mean, and what's the truth. And it's kind of a mix of all three of those things. So just because they're telling you one thing doesn't mean I don't take that as the gospel and run with it. You have to think about these things.
As an entertainer, as a person that is involved in the entertainment industry, and of course, the future may hold a movie or a streaming show for you with your work. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the Me Too movement? Because obviously that's an issue.
It's a sticky situation for sure. If someone tells me something happened to them, I tend to believe them until I hear otherwise. But I'm not into this holistic, just cancel the person immediately, because sometimes we find out that the accusations are false and there are other things going on in the background. And now you just essentially ruined someone over something that didn't even happen when it comes out later. And there seems to be no accountability for that other side. Once someone is blamed, that accusation is found to be false. And then they just, there's not even like so much as a my bad. It's just like, oh, okay, my bad. And they don't even say that. It's just over and done with. But I do understand why things are kind of slanted the way they are, is because of the treatment of rape victims in the past. That's the reason why I think they go overboard like now, because the court system and the tactics of defense attorneys and the media that they've employed as well, because the same thing, is they attack the character of the victim, usually when it has to do with somebody that's in a high profile position. They're going to be all types of sluts, whores before they even get to the courtroom. And so that prohibits people from wanting to step forward, number one. And then once they do step forward, it's like they're going to be dragged through hell the entire process. So even if they're in the right, you've already got a lot of damage that's going to be done in addition to what actually happened to them. So it's kind of a weird, not necessarily weird, but it's a difficult thing to kind of navigate, because on the one point you want to believe people when they say something's happening. On the other you don't want to unjustified, you don't want to be unjustified in condemning someone who may or may not be guilty of it. So I'm a wait and see type person. When things come out, I'm like, okay. And then I wait to see as things come out. I'm not the one to jump on the bandwagon as soon as it drops, like, oh, because you just don't know. And if I wasn't personally there, like, people, that's the funny thing about all these debates going on the internet, is a lot of people that are arguing over things that they were nowhere near to seeing in person, but they are dead set knowing that they fully contemplate what happened in that given situation. It's like, how?
Yeah.
You're behind a screen and the keyboard the entire time. You are not even, like, if somebody went to the game, they were on the sidelines. Like, you're not even on the sidelines, homie. You're just off in the distance giving an opinion on something as if you know it is gospel when you have no clue.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
And to just
So
condemn.
that's my opinion on it. Believe women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Believe women.
But I think it's
until-
believe women, but ask questions. Like, I think it's owed. If somebody has the balls to come out and go, so-and-so raped me, then everything needs to stop and you need to find out what happened. You're not saying,
Yeah.
I'm not believing you, but you just called this dude out 20 years ago for raping you. What the fuck? We can't just be like, oh, she said it, it's over. That is where I think it gets really bad.
Too many times, though, that's exactly how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said it, it's a wrap.
Yep.
Oh, you had a TV show coming? Not anymore. Oh, you had a lucrative business? We're going to shut that shit down. Oh, you wanted to do this in the food industry? Nope, not buying your cheeseburgers no more.
Because with those companies, it's easier just to cut ties and find the next guy.
Yeah, because they don't want the risk.
Yep.
They don't want a risk to be associated with anything that negative. They just cut you off. And then by the time the smoke clears and you find out that he or she didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like that football player a while back. I think he was in college, ended up doing like 5 years. He was supposed to be drafted by the NFL. There was a rape accusation. Then later on, find out she actually confessed that it was a false accusation.
Oh,
this
my
dude
God,
did all that
dude.
time and messed up his opportunity. Like, okay, so what does he do now?
Yeah.
Where's he go now?
And why don't we make as much outrage about that? Because that's fucked up. To go out and ruin somebody's life based on just a bold-faced lie like that for no reason, even if you're pissed and you guys had a bad date or some shit. You don't do that
I
shit.
think she had a boyfriend at the time, and it cheated on dude with him, and so to trying to divulge herself of that guilt, she
Ruins his life. That's fucked up. And that's where it becomes a slippery slope in a big, bad way. I agree.
Yeah.
Fucking A, dude.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on defunding the police? I mean,
I understand that, but it's impractical because as human beings, we have shown time and again that we cannot police ourselves. So there has to be something in place. And the problem that I believe, what do you have in place in the interim? If we just break it all down, I'm fine. You want to break it all down, but you have to show me something in place that's going to do the job that needs to be done while we dismantle this thing that is not working. I understand. I don't know about defunding, but I would just recruit from within. And I'm not talking about within the police department. I'm talking about within those areas that are being policed, because part of the problem is they don't relate to the people in those neighborhoods. You have a predominantly black neighborhood and you got a couple white dudes that are in some suburb 45 minutes to an hour away. Now, understand why that was done. But before, those cops may have been in those neighborhoods, actually walked the beat like they used to do, knew those kids, knew the parents of those kids, and understood there was some type of nuance between the relationship between the cops in those neighborhoods. And when we took that away, you basically have a militarized unit of police in these neighborhoods and everybody's a suspect. And when you come from that perspective without any proof of that, you're going to have problems because there are people that in those places that commit crimes. Yes, not every single person that looks a certain way is committing a crime. And if you're not from that environment and can't discern which is which, you're going to have a problem. I grew up in Chicago. I remember getting pulled, and the funny thing is, I remember getting pulled over on the sidewalk while walking down the street in a shirt and tie on a Friday before a basketball game. How I know it was a Friday is because in this west suburb in Oak Park, Illinois, where I went to school, game day, you wore a shirt and tie. So basketball players on game day wore a shirt and tie. So it wasn't as if I was wearing some jeans, sagging off my ass with my hat cocked sideways, walking, speaking like a gang member. I wasn't throwing up flipping signs, none of that shit. Cop just saw a young black kid in a nice suburb of Chicago and figured, what is this little Negro doing here? And decided to put me up against the hood, question me, and I told him where I was going. I was on my way to school. I had a basketball game. It's Friday evening, afternoon. That's what's going on. And it's because we were in a suburb and he felt that I shouldn't be there. It didn't matter how I was dressed. It just mattered how he saw a 6'6", 6'7" skinny black dude walking down the street where he thought he didn't belong. And so that's my experience. And a lot of that happens because the people don't understand the neighborhoods in which they patrol. And that's part of the problem. There is a disconnect between law enforcement and the neighborhoods that they are charged with serving and protecting. And on top of that, with the training that they're taught, that they're constantly on the lookout because there's a danger of them not coming home, which is a real danger in a lot of places. But everyone's not automatically a suspect.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the Bronx, and, both pretty much melting pots. So we're used to different people from different ethnicities. We get used to it. You know what I mean? You grow up and you've got all kinds of friends, whether Hispanic or black or white or Asian or whatever, Native American, the list goes on for days, but there was all kinds of different people that would come together. And sometimes there would be racial tension. It just depended on who you were hanging out with. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of us that didn't care. You know what I mean? They don't look at life that way. So they were raised better by their parents, you know what I mean? So, but I saw a lot of it. Do you think that racial tension is much higher now than it was back in the day when we were coming up? Or do you think is it going back to that, or is it getting worse?
It's getting worse, but the only difference I see is that it's not as obvious now. A lot of the racial things are now, they've evolved. And I kind of like the way it was before, in that when someone didn't like you because of the color of your skin, they would outright tell you. And now a lot of people smile in your face. They may not call me the N-word, but they'll be the first ones to call the police on me when I'm somewhere they don't think I should be. And anonymously, they get to hide behind that anonymity and kind of peek around the corner to see what happens. And there are people that weaponize the police a lot of times like that. And I would just rather walk into a store and you tell me F off, whatever epithet you want to call me, and I think, oh, you don't like me. All right, I'm just not going to take my business here. I'll leave. And I'm not going to, if that's the way it is, I don't deal with you. Now, people have those same thought processes, but because they want to make money and because they want to function in society, they hide it. And then I think these crazy things that we see on video, or where it's kind of like somebody with Tourette's that's been holding their twitching for too long, eventually it's going to come out.
Yeah.
And so it comes out, you get a recording of it, it goes viral. It's like, dude didn't become racist, or he or she did not become racist in that moment. He's already had those thoughts. It's just now it bubbled up and popped out. I'd rather see you coming from a mile away and know that I have to steer clear from you than me not knowing who it is around me that I have to be wary of. And then there's kind of underlying things like, because then it becomes a weird thing where we're talking and you say something and now I'm thinking, well, was that racist, or was it, it's kind of an inside game that I'm having now. And I don't like that. I like to know who it is I'm around, who I'm dealing with. And if I choose not to deal with you, that's fine. And we're not fixing it because there are some people that just don't see your perspective. And there's one thing, critical thinking is when you try and see someone else's perspective, and that has gone way down, which is another thing. If it's not a part of my experience, then I don't want to deal with it. There are a lot of folks, oh, you believe in white privilege. That doesn't exist and hasn't been my experience. So they just write it off. It doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist because I haven't seen it with my own eyes. It's like, that's dumb, dude. If someone walked up to you and said they punched you in the face because you were white and they told you that, it would be dumb of me to come in after you and be like, nah, you got to find another reason. He punched you from some other reason than that, even though you just told me why he punched you. It's been, and then the funny thing is now we've got this shit happening where it's on camera, you see it, and then people still will make excuses for why whatever happened.
Yeah.
Oh, there's got to be something else, man. I need to see more evidence. It was, Rodney King. No one believed shit like that was happening until the video came of that happening, and then people were like all shocked and all like, what is going on? The dude's just beating him so he's tired. Now, majority of people, if you walked up to him and said, hey man, this is what happened to me 2 weeks ago, oh no, you making that shit up. That's not happening. Then it came the recording, and now it seems like as a society, we've become so desensitized that these videos pop up more and more. And instead of us trying to rectify it, there are still more people talking about they don't believe that was why this happened. That to me is crazy.
Yeah, for every time it seems like you disprove somebody's argument, they want to double down and tell you why you're wrong. It's like, I won't just let go. It's, a lot of people don't realize, it's not only is it okay to be wrong, but that's what you should be striving for, because then you're closer to the truth. But it seems like, especially nowadays, with whether it's COVID or whether it's politics or whether it's anything like that, it's, if you don't agree with either what I perceive the masses are or like you said, what my experience is, you're my enemy. Not just you're wrong. Like we're at odds at everything because of that. I don't get where that started, but it seems like when the internet has made so much more transparent, we're finding more ways to throw up lies. And we should stop that. It doesn't make sense. It does not help anything.
We can't see the full picture is usually the problem. Like, black folks are in this country because of one thing, pretty much. So, and then once black folks were freed in this country, we were financially herded to other parts of this country, specifically through financial institutions, through redlining. Once the slaves were freed, redlining stopped them from owning property in certain areas of the country. So they were herded. So all these inner city areas with predominantly black neighborhoods, they're there. It's not like a random thing that just happened as it happened. You know what I mean? So they're in those neighborhoods, and a lot of times they don't own all the businesses and things in those neighborhoods, but you want to blame them for the condition of those neighborhoods. It'd be one thing if we owned everything within every black community and things still were as they were. But it's just fact that the government and other institutions basically had a recipe for high crime in those areas. And I don't care where in the world you go, if you have lack of job opportunities, poor education, right after that comes crime. And I don't care what color skin it is. If those three conditions exist, there's going to be high crime in those areas, anywhere on this planet. It doesn't matter white, black, Asian, Native. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you have those three ingredients for the recipe, crime is going to pop up. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Desperation's a bitch. When you're put in those positions, what choice do some people have? Some people are legitimately just trying to make ends meet or just trying to feed their family.
Feed their kids.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're a self-made man, and look what you're doing now. So my question is there, do some circumstances actually dictate what's going to happen for you in the future? Do you think that that's a thing? Or do you think
circumstances shade what can happen? So with me being in that environment that I just described, there is a chance for me that is probably higher that I'd be involved in crime. It does not mean that I have to go that route. I have a choice. It's just not maybe an easy one. That's all it is. things don't affect everybody equally. Crime and all that stuff, all the other conditions that we have to take onus on our own as well. You have a responsibility as an individual to basically take on the consequences of your actions. It's not wholly one or the other. What we're talking about is nature versus nurture. Am I just born to be this way, or am I a product wholly of my environment, and this just was going to be the result no matter what? No, I have a choice. It may not be easy. I may not like it. It just may be harder for me. And that's what it is for a lot of people in the Black communities and people of color in the country. It may be harder for you, but it is possible. You don't have to be a gangbanger. You don't have to. You can do what it is that you want to do. It just may not be, the red carpet's not going to be rolled out for you in those cases. Conversely, when we get to talking about things as privilege and white privilege, it doesn't affect you unilaterally. I hear some of my friends are like, I ain't got $1 million. Where's my $1 million from my white privilege? Like, it doesn't work like that. There are other things that factor in. There's your family. There's your social status within the construct of the society in which we live in that will either raise the possibility or percentage of you getting somewhere or lower it. It's accordingly. I had a friend, I was like, you know what? Maybe your privilege didn't make you rich. Perhaps the only thing it means is that for the next 20 years, you can have a few drinks after work for the next 20 years and never worry about getting pulled over by the cops. So no, you don't have $1 million. You don't have a mansion, a bunch.
You got a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
No,
but you don't get that random pullover unless you like royally mess up. That me in my little gray Mitsubishi pickup truck riding down the road, minding my own business, I may get pulled over at a higher percentage than you, and the results of that may be that I get killed. That's in fact the difference. So no, you're not an automatic millionaire. You're not handed everything to you with a silver spoon, but you get to go home and live in peace. And I think that goes a lot towards mental health. Like when you don't have to worry about those things, or it never even occurred to you that might even happen to you because it never has. And me, I'm freaking out because a cop just pulled in behind me at a red light, and I used scope this morning so that he might think there's alcohol on my breath. You know what I mean? Is it crazy stuff like that can happen, and I'm freaking out where he had a 6-pack sitting right next to him for the last 20 years and been driving back and forth to work because that's what he's always done. Ain't never been a problem.
Yeah. I know guys like that. Yeah. Well, what do you think? You think we'll ever rise above it? I mean, the little small things, because it's the little things, you don't think we'll ever rise above it? You don't think we'll ever be able to get along?
There's always going to be something.
Always going to be something, yeah.
There's always going to be something. Even if we say we eradicate all the racism for skin color, we get rid of that, it's going to be religious based because you believe differently than I believe. You don't worship the way we unify all the religions and only have one God, right? If that theoretically happens, then it'll become you don't worship the way I worship, which is the dumbest thing. I've been able to kind of sit down and kind of study a little bit and read the Bible. I read the Quran. I read the Torah. And then I'm reading those three things, which is like the big three kind of that are around on the earth. And I'm like, okay, you got the Archangel Gabriel, who is the messenger in the Bible, right? And then that same Gabriel is the one that gave the message of Allah to Muhammad. And as that's part of the Old Testament before then, Gabriel is the Archangel in the Torah as well. That's God's messenger. So I went to some people that were studying Islam, and I went to some Jews and asked them, is this the same Gabriel? And they're like, yes, that's the same Gabriel. I'm like, well, if this is the same Gabriel, then all three of y'all worship the same God, because all three, there's one common phrase you'll find: there is but one true living God, right? So all three of them worship the same guy. It'd be like if all three of us had the same boss but did different jobs. So basically had different contracts with that boss. But I'm pissed at you because your contract is different than my contract. And then Cody's pissed at me because my contract's different from his contract. That's basically what it boils down to. And people have been killing each other for years and years and years. And you think this is going to go away?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think about the thought of, that part in the Bible? I can't remember what Bible book it was, but there was, what was his name? Nimrod. And he was building this Tower of Babel, right? And then, they were all defiant against God. And so that's the basic breakdown. I don't know how accurate that is. But anyways, he confused the languages. God confused the languages. And so basically, he got them the old-fashioned way. He divide and conquer. You know what I mean? He divided the people. Do you think that that's what has, through time, affected us the way it has? Or do you think it was something prior to that? Or do you think it's something that is inherently inside of us to just not be able to get along?
I think as certain individuals, we always try and purport ourselves as being special and above. And so when you get into that mentality of you're exceptional and above, then of course there are other roles around you. Somebody has to be below. And in that, we kind of set ourselves up to be elitist in whatever manner you want to put that term. And when someone hones in on that feeling of elitism, they try and take possession of that, then we fight to stave them off. And so that's throughout time in different societies, that's just what's happened. We are the chosen people. You know what I'm saying? We are, so anybody, well, I'm chosen too. And then you look and like, no, you're not part. So they start fighting over that shit. Like, no, you're not chosen. You're not special like us. You're special in your own way, kind of, but not special.
You got that little helmet, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that little bus. You can get on the little bus, but you ain't special with us.
You can get on that.
And that's what we fight over. Also quality of life differences. We feel like our quality of life is better than this quality of life. So
that's a good point.
Over people's heads.
That's a really good point.
We dangle that. That's the way of differentiating and not understanding. Like at the base level, everybody wants the same things, at least for the most part. You have children, you want the best for your children. You want to be relatively happy, and you want the things that you want to make you most comfortable. Some people just take it a little too far and decide that they know best for other people and that their ways are the best ways. And if you don't act accordingly to what they want, then you're less than, and then they push that on you. So it's a weird time.
100%.
I got like 8 episodes on my podcast.
So you got a podcast?
You have a podcast? I didn't know that.
What's the podcast called?
The Askari Cast.
The Askari Cast?
Askari, the Askari Cast. Yeah.
Nice. So what do you talk about on your podcast?
Mostly science fiction, fantasy stuff, gaming, various things, publishing, writing. My very
gaming.
Yeah.
Speaking of gaming.
I got my little.
That's something you guys have that in common. You and Cody really have that in common. I'm just starting now to get back into gaming, but I'm not serious like you guys. You guys would make me look like a little kid.
I've been playing through Cyberpunk, man.
Oh my gosh, I want to play that so bad. How are you liking it?
Love it, but I'm playing on PC. I didn't buy it on base console. I have an Xbox One X and a PS4 Slim, but when I was like, I'm not getting that on a console. I'm getting that on PC, mainly because it seemed too big and ambitious for me to want to put it on console.
Yeah,
it just didn't make sense, and I wasn't going to upgrade to PS5 or Xbox One X yet. So I was like, hold off on that. I was like, the only thing I could do is maybe upgrade my graphics card, but I didn't do that either.
That's where I'm at right now. As I'm on the verge of needing to start upgrading again, and it's.
Well, I got a 2060. That was my first build. I built my PC basically when the RTX 2060 came out, because that was my last component, was my graphics card that I needed, and I didn't want to spend $1,200 on a 2080 Ti.
Yeah.
So that one came. I was like, $350. Now you talking. Plus, I didn't know. I had never built one before, and I didn't want to blow my shit up. So I was like, if I waste $350, okay, but if I blow up $1,200, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been gaming. I talk about gaming. I'm gonna try to have my artist over here we had one episode we talked about the Kickstarter when we were launching. I'm gonna have him come over. We'll do another episode where we talk about the Kickstarter experience and the experience I had with a shady web marketer who tried to say that they were doing something for my campaign when I didn't see any results from their supposed efforts. And we got into a bit of an email spat, which was pretty funny because in the end, he's talking about he was going to come to my house. And I was like, you can come to my house if you want to and get the brakes beat up off you. I don't know what you coming over. You're probably thinking it's some pencil neck dude sitting behind the keyboard with some glasses on. You're going to run into something else entirely when you get over here. I did interviews. I did interviews with another comic book creator, TJ Sterling.
Okay.
And another science fiction author, William Hayashi, who did get a Netflix deal for his Dark Side trilogy books. So I have an interview with him.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There are other ways for me to kind of relate to people and try and reach out. So I wanted to find other ways to connect with people without being over salesy of my books. You know what I mean?
100%.
All you hear me say is, "Hey, buy my books. Hey, buy my books. Hey, buy my book." After a while, you're gonna turn me off.
Yeah.
But if we can talk about things that I like, we did an episode on Lovecraft Country, the TV show on HBO Max. We spoke about that. So that's what I try and do with the podcast is basically talk about publishing, talk about things within the sci-fi and fantasy genres, talk about things in gaming, anything basically that catches my interest.
So you do pass on information basically to help people that are trying to do similar things, like artists and creators, content creators.
That not only that, but my thing was like my publishing journey. I think my first episode was just about me publishing, and then right after that, I think I released an episode that's titled "Your Idea Sucks, but That's Okay." Mainly because people are kind of reticent to put themselves at risk because they keep thinking, "Oh, my idea is dumb. I'm not going to write that," and then get laughed at. And then my whole premise for the episode was like, "Hey, Sharknado has multiple movies."
That's a good point.
Somebody thought that shit was a good idea. We'll mix natural disasters and sharks flying around eating people, and then we won't even think of this idea. We'll not only will we think of that idea, we'll make this into full feature films.
Yeah.
And somebody greenlit that idea. So my thing is, if that thing got greenlit, your idea, whatever it is worth taking a stab at and putting out there, because you never know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Sharknado. That's so funny.
It's true, though.
Because I've always said the same, because my wife likes it. She watches every single movie. Yeah, and I'm just like, what are you, what? I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. If that can be made, you know what I mean? Who knows? The sky's kind of the limit when it comes to that.
And the fact that publishing has changed so much now. There are no more gatekeepers when it comes to writing books.
Really?
You can publish anything you want. You can write something right now, type it up on Microsoft Word, and within 24 to 48 hours have it out to the public right now, if you wanted to. I wouldn't advise it.
I was just going to say, but then what do? You just hope?
Well, that's the point.
But see, back in the day, there would be the big publishing houses. You would try and find an agent to push your book, and then the publishing house could look at your stuff and be like, "Yeah, no, what is this? Half naked black dwarf on crack? That's not going to do it. No one's going to buy this story. We're not reading it. Good luck with your life." And they would turn you away, and that was pretty much it. Now you could take that same weird ass story, write it. I would advise getting work on your cover and paying a professional editor, but you could do that and have that story by your own ISBN number now. You could I'm about to create my own publishing house, because now I've gone from literary novels to graphic novels, which we're going to have also comic books. I'm basically becoming my own publishing house, and that was not a thing before. Matter of fact, we're probably catching up when it comes to self published authors. There was kind of a stigmatism about it in the past, where if you weren't a traditionally published author, you're looked down on. There's probably still some of that in the industry now. The thing is, there's millions of us coming. You know what I mean? So if you wanted to write a book today, it is a lot more of a possibility than in the past, because there's no one here that can really tell you, no, you can't do that.
Right.
Well, you mentioned gatekeepers, but let me ask you this. Do you think that they are a necessary evil?
No.
No, you don't think so? So, okay, the reason I ask is because much like a band or someone who's writing a book or someone who's trying to get a TV show produced or a movie produced, you have to have some kind of financial backing or connections to get it out there in a big way, or else nobody knows that it exists. You know what I mean? So that, to me, is what the gatekeepers are for, because they're basically the ones that have the power to get your art out there in a big way, your content out there in a bigger way than you could on your own. Like an artist, a musician can, write a song and go to CD Baby and have it released through CD Baby. But CD Baby is not going to push that out there in a big way for you. So it's just going to be another song that kind of, on some levels, falls on deaf ears, because nobody knows it exists. So that's why I wonder sometimes whether or not the gatekeepers are somewhat necessary for when you get to that level. Maybe you start out independent and then you get to a level where you're undeniable, as Cody and I like to say. And I think you're undeniable, by the way, Rod.
100%.
I think once you put your mind to something, you get it done. I have no doubt that you're going to have major success with this. So, but my question to you is, do you think that there's truth to that, or do you think there is no truth to that? You don't need the gatekeeper at all.
You don't need the gatekeeper, because eventually the people will decide. And you already talked about it. There is a mechanism that basically is the gate. And that's what you said, the financial backing. There's no way in hell I can compete as a author with a Stephen King, because they're well established, and the amount of marketing that's going to automatically come with just saying that name as soon as it's released. Like, what would be done, be like, I'm going to release my book on January 4th, which so happens to be the same day that Stephen King's new thriller is coming out. Like, who do you think's going to hear you?
Yeah.
Nobody. So there's already that gate, which is financial. What I mean by gatekeeper is a person or entity standing in the way of you getting your work published and out there. Now, once it's out there, it's still going to be, the onus is still going to be on you to make some noise and get your name and get it ringing in the people's ears, so that they go and look for your content, whatever it is. And you're going to have to learn how to market. Everybody that is an artist in any way, shape, or form, you have to become a marketer, whether you want to or not. I don't want to be in advertising and marketing. Yes, you do, because you're going to have to. And with authors, whether they know it or not, even if I were to be assigned to like a major publishing house today, I am still going to have to market my books and get it sold. And the other thing is, they're going to take a bigger cut. If they do put some marketing money out, I'm going to owe them off of my royalties based on how much money that they've put into backing my book. I would much rather start from where I started, and I get the deals directly from the distributors. So I get 70% from Amazon. I get 70% from Barnes & Noble, and the digital, both sides of that, 70% as well. Same thing if I put it on Apple iBooks, 70%. I'd rather do it that way and just be responsible for my own marketing than to be, if I get a huge, say it doesn't sell, and then I owe this money. All right, because isn't that how things happen with the musicians that have gone broke in the past, with TLC and they owe in it because they've been advanced money, and then their tours cost money, and then they end up broke because they don't realize how much money the company has spent on their behalf, which they really may or may not have benefited from that. and then it kicks them in the ass later. So the gatekeepers are the ones that say you can't put this book out. And not necessarily the financial backing, but that's the gatekeeping that I think has been gone away. That's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is anybody can do it. The bad thing is
anybody can fucking do it.
And so, yeah, the obstacle I have now as an independent author, and that goes with any indie, is that everybody and their mama has a book out now. And so now you're trying to raise yourself above the noise to be heard in a sea of freaking screaming banshees.
Yeah.
That is the thing now. Is that everybody can do it, not everybody does. And not everybody's going to get the best cover artist for their books. Not everybody's going to pay for an editor for their books. Oh, well, my sister took English class, English lit in college, so I'm going to let her edit my book. Not what I'm talking about. That we need a professional editor to edit your books, to see things that you did not see, to catch things that you weren't aware of that were errors. And you have full control. Like, I go to an editor just because they suggest a change. It doesn't mean I do that. Well, no, that's not a misspelling. This character speaks that way. He speaks broken English on purpose. That's the way the person speaks is a character in my book. So no, we're not going to make this correction. But everywhere else over here where you made those corrections, I'll accept those corrections. So you can, you know what I'm saying? You have room to control your creative process, but you want it to look right. You don't want it to look, you don't want somebody to look at your book and be, oh, this must be a self-published dude. He's independent. You know what I mean?
100%.
And like, there's a difference when you're producing CDs for distribution, when you have somebody, a publisher and distributor, print and press those things, then the homie down the street who's making CDs off of his laptop and prints out the sticker for the cover shot, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
100%. Tell he made that shit at home. Like,
no, you don't want.
Like, you're not too short selling records out of your trunk, homie. Make this thing look like.
Because it is. They both do parallel with that, the music and writing. Because you're right. If you don't, anybody can go out and throw a song together, and sadly, they do all the fucking time. And then people who bust their balls to get a good producer and find good writing partners and art to go on the iTunes and shit like that are pulling our collective hairs out because somebody, everybody gets lucky.
Somebody makes it though.
Huh?
The funniest shit is when somebody makes it.
That's what I was just gonna say. Some people fall through the cracks and makes you want to run your head through the wall.
Like, wait, what? Who got a deal?
Yeah.
With what? Arista? Oh, hell no. How did they get a deal? And then you're looking like, oh man.
Yep.
Like that's great. It's hilarious.
And then you can fall back and that's just that corporate bullshit. But then there's still that thing in your head going, yeah, but they still made the money off that fucking thing, And I'm still working my ass off trying to get there.
Well, you've had some pretty good success, Rod, with your crowdsourcing campaign, right?
Yeah, man. It's basically replaced my events for the year because last year, I think I did 6 or 7 events. The 2 largest were Baltimore and Awesome Con, where I made like 1,000 of each of those events, selling 2 books. And so I had anticipated with the 3rd book in a graphic novel, I was going to add a significant amount of money to that. And that was all wiped away. So with this crowdfunding event, it not only kind of gave that back to me, but now I'm able to reinvest those funds into expanding the stories and getting more of this stuff created so that when things do open back up, we can have multiple volumes, multiple more books, which raises my potential at said events once they're open. So yeah, I was really happy and surprised and appreciative and grateful for the support that we got, especially given that we're in a pandemic and a lockdown and all this other crazy crap that's going down. We got Christmas coming up in like 9 days, 10 days. Yep. And people thought enough of what we put out there to support it that much during this time is just, it's incredible.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Was there any specific recipe that you had when you put together your crowdsourcing campaign to make it to make sure that it went off without a hitch and had some chance of success?
It did. That's the funny thing. It didn't go off without a hitch. It was my first time and I had no clue what I was doing. So I took 2 classes. I had some online classes that I took specifically geared towards Kickstarter. One class, it was like, oh yeah, free hour-long seminar. We'll tell you how we raise a certain amount of funds, and we have a whole crew and a bunch of backers that come in. And then I knew it was coming, but at the end of the class, then they wanted to charge you money. So it's either this big lump sum of money or this monthly fee that I was like, nah, homie, I'm sorry. I'm appreciative for the guidance and the information, but I'm not doing that. So then I took another class that I paid for, but this time it was with someone who was well established within the comics industry, who had ran plenty of successful campaigns on Kickstarter. The other guy, the first class, had also, I think he's on his like 19th or 20th Kickstarter now. He's got like 20 under his belt. I just wasn't paying that money for his backers and all that other stuff. I wasn't doing that. And I learned a lot from the second class as well. It kind of organized my thoughts in the way that I would market. I don't know if you saw any of the posts that I would do. I had the face swap posts that were going on.
I don't think I saw
No,
that one.
At first, I would just post links to the Kickstarter with an explanation of what I was doing. And then as my artist gave me different art that he would give me so that it wasn't the same post over and over again. So then I contacted another artist to get a variant cover that was going to be exclusive to the Kickstarter for people to contribute for if they wanted. And then I would do these weird posts where I basically impose my face on like the face of a
Oh, okay. I think I did see one of those. Yeah.
and then it would post a link to my Kickstarter, and I would say something funny. I think I had a Tyson one that I did where I superimposed part of my face onto his face. And I was like, I would say something in quote, be like, the champ says, you got about 3 hours to go down and back Ancient Illuminations Kickstarter Volume 1. Remember to vote, get it now before it runs out. And then I would post it and people were like, what the hell is this? I had one where I was Forrest Gump. I'd be like, Forrest tells you to run, and it's my face over Forrest Gump. He's doing his run for his run thing. I said, Forrest is telling you to run straight over to Kickstarter right now and back Ancient. So I try to do
That's good.
like,
Yeah.
I try to do 2 of those a day. I did interviews, a crew called HNIC, the head nerds in charge, a blurred group on Facebook that has a pretty good following. We did 2 interviews with them online and got a lot of good support for that. I tried to tap into my veteran crew because I'm a former Marine, and I tried to, Veterans Day had come up. It was right in the middle of all that going on. And because I was offering challenge coins as one of the rewards for, I don't know if you can see that, but.
Oh, that's cool looking.
That is cool.
Printed up because I was in the Marine Corps, so I put that. And then there's the death's head.
Oh, that's tight.
For this. I have a
really cool.
fictitious military Marine unit that trains on Saturn because Saturn has 10 times the gravity of Earth. And so in order to keep up with these crazy mutants that are spawning up all over the place, they basically take this cocktail of supplements and steroids to give themselves the strength to function over 10 times the gravity. And then they train there with the hopes that they'll be able to keep up when they go back to fight the other races. So I had that made. I had a metal print printed up for the poster that I had. That was one of the gifts in one of the tiers.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
That's sweet, dude.
That is so well done, too. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I had to come up because my thing was, what are we giving you for more money? Like the higher the tier, we gotta give you something.
Yeah.
Luckily, like I was able to include. My wife suggested to include the novels because, like, how are we going to raise $6,000 with just the graphic novel? And that's going to be hard. You have to, at each tier, I wanted to give something of value for people that pledged for whatever reward. So that was kind of the strategy I used, and hope that I can get enough people to do that, and we did. There wasn't a recipe for it, but I just kind of was going along and seeing what others were doing and kind of tried to implement those ways that I saw that worked for them and see if I could put my own little spin on it. I don't know anybody that was using the reface things. The most I got out of it though were people would laugh. I did one recently. I did one with the Coming to America. It's Eddie Murphy, but it superimposed my face, and it's where he says, "Are you telling me that no matter what I tell you what to do, you will do it?" And she says, "Yes, walk like a dog, a big dog." You know, so it's that little clip with my face on it, but it's Eddie Murphy speaking the lines.
Are you saying that no matter what I tell you to do, you will do?
Yes, Your Highness.
Let us dress as New Yorkers. How do I look? I believe you call it soccer. When you think of garbage, think of Akeem.
So, and that's what I wrote in the title of that post. It's like, are you telling me that if I tell you what to do, you will do it? And then I was like, that. Then go to Ancient Illuminations. Back to this and that. And so, but most of the time, people would just, you know, they would just look at the little video and laugh, and I'd get a bunch of likes on Facebook. I don't know how many of those people actually went to the Kickstarter, but I assume some of them had to have because we got some good results. But I didn't want to post the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah,
because there were various interest groups on Facebook, a lot of Black science fiction groups, Afrofuturism. I posted in those groups. I try to stay away from posting directly to any of the military groups that I'm a part of because I didn't want to bombard them with salesy stuff. More so what I did with that is I contacted people that I personally served with because I wanted them to get as many of these coins as possible.
Nice.
They know what it means to have. I don't know if you guys know what a military challenge coin is.
No.
Okay. So basically, you guys, you were in the Navy, you were in the Army or whatever, and then we meet up at a bar and I have my coin because, you know, this is the unit I served in. You'd be like, oh, you know, where'd you serve? And I'd be like, I was in 9th Com Battalion. And I'd slap my coin on the table. And then it would be up to you to tell me, oh, I was with the Navy SEALs, SEAL Team 6. Bam, you slam down your coin. And then you'd be like, oh, I'm with, you know, whatever unit you're with. You slam your coin. Now, if anybody didn't have their coin, the next round of drinks is on them, whoever didn't have their coin.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it's a challenge coin. So I wanted to create something cool that would be a collectible.
That is cool, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I only printed up 100 of them. So once these are gone, they're gone.
So is your campaign still running currently?
That's over with.
You're done. Okay.
It ended on the 15th.
Right.
And Kickstarter is weird. Like if you don't get to the goal, you don't get nothing.
Really?
You
Wow.
spin your wheels for that. And that's why it's kind of stressful, man, because you wake up and I look on the phone and be like, oh, where are we at today? And then some people can cancel their pledges. So you see the money go up and the next morning it goes down because somebody say change their mind. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Do you suggest Kickstarter or do you think GoFundMe or something else along those lines would be a better choice?
I don't know. This is the only one I've done. I just don't know about. I would much rather go to events and sell books, to be honest.
So is that the plan? Because we were talking earlier, even before we officially got started, about Comic-Con, and we talked about how it had similarities to Renaissance Fair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of people that are attracted to these kind of events. And these are your people at Comic-Con, right? You know what I mean? They're your kind of people. They're going to be into what you're putting out there. So is that what you've been doing so far? And is that the game plan for the future once things hopefully open up?
Until February of this year, that was my bread and butter. It was slowly, and the funny thing is, it was just becoming my bread and butter. It wasn't always my bread and butter, but we had just gotten to the point where I was going to be just picking and choosing what events to go to. It was always a matter of finding what events were best for us in which we could make the most money, choose only those events. And then for more intimate settings, I'm going to do smaller cons that I just enjoy going to and being with that fan. Like, as much as I was talking crazy about Star Trek, the Star Quest was a small but enjoyable event. And because of the size that was so much smaller, we got to be with some of the celebrities from Star Trek. Because it wasn't like the huge events where there's a huge convention floor and everybody's at the front with all the celebrities, with all the people from like Alien and Terminator and Star Wars are signing autographs. And so basically then what you have to do is you try and ride the wave of people that are going, depending on where you are on the convention floor, try and see if you're in a good like throughway that's on the way to the celebrities. Because at certain points when people know that such and such from Ghostbusters is going to be signing autographs, they're flooding that way. So you're hoping you're like on the way, so at least you can catch people going by.
Right.
Whereas these smaller events, Garrett Wong, I think I told you guys. I don't know. Can you see this?
Yeah, a little bit tilted a little bit because you're getting a lot of reflection. There you go.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
That dude's from Star Trek. That's Garrett Wong. And his table was like within spitting distance of mine.
Oh damn.
There was also you remember Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the Black Vulcan?
Yes.
Dude's name was Tuvok, and I used to make fun of it all the time because I was like, they wanted to call him Tupac so bad. I don't know why you didn't just call him Tupac. Well, that actor was, and he was also in Spaceballs. Remember Spaceballs?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Remember the black dude with the helmet?
Holy shit,
And
he was in
out there with-
Spaceballs.
And he said, "Have you found it?" And he said, "We ain't found shit."
Yeah.
He was there, and their tables were like literally a couple feet away from my table, which at the huge cons, that's not happening.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, they have like their own section, their own part of the floor just for celebrities, and they have a schedule where they're going to be there signing for different fandoms that alternate throughout the con schedule. So my plan is to have 4 or 5 of the big cons a year, and a handful after that of the smaller cons that I just enjoy going to. That I may not make a whole lot of money at, but I enjoy being there, and hopefully the big cons have done well enough there that it doesn't matter. That's the plan for me going forward, and to constantly create more content, get my name out there, get the books out there, expand the stories visually as well. Mainly because I said some people have been asking for it. The reason why I got to making graphic novels and comics in the first place, because people were asking for it. It'd be one thing if no one wanted it. If they didn't want it, then I wouldn't have created it. I would have just kept writing books by themselves.
Right.
But that's the main thing, man. This crowdfunding, I think I may do, but I may do it biannually. So every 2 years, I may do one for a new project, and hopefully within that time, I'll have built up a catalog of things that make it worth it. Because I think it's hard to raise a certain amount of money when you're only offering one thing. The reason mine was successful, there were actually 4 products in addition to the bonus stuff that I had that I was able to offer. And that made it kind of easier.
People like bonus stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really do,
and I think variant covers are an easy one to do because you have to pay the artist to do another cover, but you think about the other pages are already done. You're only swapping out the cover.
Yeah.
It's the same story inside. But if you get some really badass art, then it'll attract people to that art. And,
Are you selling T-shirts and stuff like that as well? No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. That may be coming. Right now, I'm just focused on the art and the books. We don't have any clothing. I've been messing around. I got a hat. I've got a few shirts with designs for my characters on them. I've got the GMC logo from the coin on a T-shirt that I've done. That's a whole nother thing, though. That's when you start getting into straight on merchandising.
Yeah.
It'll come. I'm just not focused on it now.
Well, I mean, it's the sensible next step once. Right, I got you. Well, once you start getting more and more popular, though, it's going to add to
action figures, all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Are you into action figures?
Yeah, but that's an expense. Is the thing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's true. How do you even get
Yep,
that?
I
got
think
a
you're chipping
friend-
it away right, though, dude. I mean, you're baby stepping it up the way it needs to go.
yeah.
I
I've already got a couple friends that got 3D printers. Like, yo, you need to send me CAD files of your character so I can make a action figure out of 3D print it.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah. It's like we'll do that.
We'll do that. We'll do that later. Don't rush me.
It's coming. Rod, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, brother. People, if you have not gone and done it yet, get on it. not auto. I always want to say. Actually, you know what? Now that I fucked it up, I want to say it. Did you mean the AI, ancient illumination, and artificial intelligence? They kind of work hand in hand. Did you do that on purpose or? No,
No,
just kind of.
The acronym for artificial intelligence ended up being the same because ancient illumination just comes from old and light.
Right.
Is where, so I didn't mean that. And the funny thing with the logo, I got a bunch of people on Facebook that hit me up about Illuminati, even though it has nothing to do with Illuminati.
Oh God.
I have weird people from other countries. Please tell me how to get into Illuminati. I'm like, sorry, bro.
Buy this book. Read it cover to cover.
Get these 3 books in hardcover and the graphic novel. And I will
the secrets are within.
You started as an author and you end up being a cult leader. Go figure.
Yes. Show them the coin and you will enter.
Yeah, exactly. Ancient Illumination, people, go check it out. Rod, give us the information on where to find your stuff. Give us your websites. Give us all that good stuff.
Where's your chat button at, man?
What chat button?
There was before I could open up the chat, and then I was gonna drop the link in the chat.
There's one right here. If you push the,
I'll pull it up, dude, because I'm not running off of the Zoom meeting. I'm running off an entirely different production system. So
ancientillumination.net is my author website. If you go to Amazon.com and look up Rod Van Blake, you should be able to find all of my books and a digital version of my graphic novel, Remembrance and Revolt, there. But you cannot get the physical copy through Amazon or Barnes & Noble for the graphic novel. You can get it on Amazon, and the Kindle has the PDF, or you can go to Comixology if you have a Comixology account. And I recommend the Comixology account if you're going to go digital over the PDF, because it's just a flat PDF. It's much more interactive for whatever reason on Comixology. I don't know if either of you are familiar.
Absolutely. I love Comixology.
Yeah, I'm also on Barnes & Noble, Kobo as well. I think it's a subsidiary of Rakuten. I used to be on Apple, but I'm not anymore. I got to get an Apple computer to re-upload my books to the iTunes store because they don't let us use any other hardware but theirs.
Really? What's up with that?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
And the funny thing is, it's the exact same file that I would upload from my PC, but it has to be Apple. So I got to get some Apple crap so I can put it up on iTunes. And they want it. And pretty soon I'm going to be recording the audiobooks as well.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if we go into another lockdown, I'll be writing book 4, book 2 of the fantasy series, recording the audiobook versions of the Ancient Illumination series, and scripting stuff out. I'll be busy either way.
Are you going to be narrating that?
I am narrating myself, yeah.
Nice.
Very cool, very cool. Rod Van Blake, ladies and gentlemen, check out his book, Ancient Illumination. Like you said, it's at Barnes & Nobles. It's everywhere. You can get it. Amazon.
There's going to be links below. We're going to add links here to ours too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll add links here. It's not in stores yet, but I'm sure it will be soon. Can anybody get a physical copy of your book if they want one? If they want to pay the price?
They're available in both paperback and hardcover on Amazon. Same thing at Barnes & Noble as well. Okay. I've seen weird links for it other places too, but those are the two that I trust the most for physical copies because I know they're printed by Ingram, which is where I get my printed copies from. I don't know. Like I see weird stuff on eBay and other like third and fourth party sites even that just says, "Hey, we got this same book," and I'm like, "How'd you get this?" I ain't heard of you. Ain't part of the distribution chain. Yeah. You might be a bootlegger. So are they bootlegging books now? Is that what's going on?
Probably, dude. It's the digital age.
I think so.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. The books can also be found on Nook and Kindle as well in digital form. If you don't do the Because now, when I get books now, I get 2 copies. I'll get the digital version, so I can either read it on my device, and then I get like the hardcover, so it can look pretty and sit on my shelf that I don't ruin as I finger through it and get like pizza grease and crap all over.
Well, there is something to be said about those physical copies. I do love a good old cool looking book, man. Yeah. Those are the best.
That's why I get 2. That's why I get the physical, so I can sit there and say I read that book right there. Don't open it.
Don't touch it.
Don't open it. Don't get near it.
Yeah, don't touch it. I read it though. It's a good book.
Highness.